Welcome to my channel. I am a therapist and a business psychologist. I have a master's in clinical mental health counseling and a PhD in IO psychology. Today I'm going to show you a updated day in my life on a clinical day. So it's Wednesday, and Wednesday is like my heaviest clinical day typically, because it's when my husband's off work, so he has the kids and I can just solely focus on work. I'll do a few updates since the last time I vlogged. Things are going well business wise. I actually have a full caseload now. I have like literally 2 spots open in my schedule now. So if anybody calls me wanting therapy, like I have those 2 spots, and if it doesn't work, I can put them on a wait list, or they can, I can refer them to one of my contracts, see if they have any therapists available, or somewhere else in the area. So that's kind of exciting because I've never been full before, not even when I was working for somebody else, working like as an employee, at my last job, or even like fresh out of graduate school, that first job that I had. I wasn't full then either, and I wasn't full during an internship or anything like that. So it's crazy because it's like a new experience for me to be fully booked. Other great things, a lot of clients are doing better, like my personal. So I have 2 contracts. So if are unfamiliar with clinical mental health counseling, if you go into private practice, you do have the option of contracting with other private practices so that you could see their clients or use their services in some way. So I have one contract where they refer clients to me. I use their EHR system, their billing, and all that stuff. And I have another one, and I have to do supervision under them. I still have my training license. I have another one that another contract with a private practice that is in the Green Bay area. They don't refer people to me because obviously their clients are out there and I'm closer to the Milwaukee area. But I use them for billing and for insurance. So because I'm an LPCIT, which means licensed professional counselor in training, which basically means I have a master's degree in counseling, and I've done 1,000 hours of counseling work at like clinicals, like as part of that, and then I'm working towards completing 3,000 hours of clinical practice after a master's degree. So I'm almost done actually. I calculated that I should be done by April with my hours. Woohoo! But anyway, there's a lot of limitations with that license in Wisconsin. Like you can have a private practice, but you have to be supervised, of course. And so I actually have like 3 supervisors, and because of the 2 different contracts, I have so anyways, I use that other contract that's near the Green Bay area for if people call me and they have insurance. Since I do private pay therapy for my private practice, I will still take insurance people, but I will, they'll basically be their clients basically. So they'll sign their contracts. Their billing people will verify their insurance and all that stuff. They take care of all that stuff. And I'm already credentialed. But yeah, so yeah, they handle all that too. So I, coming up in the spring, should be able to, apply for my full license, and then I have some decisions to make about whether I'm going to keep any of these contracts, because I'll be able to just bill insurance myself. But I'm trying to figure out, do I really want to take on that administrative work, because I kind of hate administrative work, or should I just continue a contract? Because there's pros and cons to it. Like, one contract offers me 70% commission right now as an LPCIT. The other one offers 60%. When I become fully licensed, that goes up. I think it goes up to 80% for the other one that I get 70% from right now, and the other one I don't know what that one goes up to. So I have decisions to make about that. Like, do I want, because you have to think about this too. Like, if I do the 80% contract, right, let's just say I stuck with that, and I'm fully licensed. They charge $120 per therapy session. I get 80%. Well, the insurance then reimburses whatever they think the session was actually worth. So right now they'll charge $120, they'll be reimbursed $82, and I get 70% of that. So then on top of that, I have to deduct 30% of that for taxes. So I take home an even smaller amount. So I have to think about that too. Like, is that really worth it? Like, maybe I should just do it myself, and then I can deduct 30% for taxes and then have the rest for me. Obviously I have to also account for expenses and things like that, but anyways, yeah, so I just have to think about those things coming up soon in a few months. And I'm excited. That's an exciting thing, like a milestone. It's been a long 3 years, I think almost 4. I got my LPCIT license in 2021 of April. So it's kind of funny that like April of 2024 is when I'll be done with my hours finally. So, yeah, I definitely thought that it would take me 2 years, but it took me more because I did have 2 maternity leaves during that time, and I had a few job changes during that time as well. So that does like make things take a little bit longer. And the last job I had, I was working in a nonprofit, and we didn't get a lot of inquiries for therapy anyways, so it was kind of hard to fill hours there too sometimes. But now I'm seeing more clients than I've ever seen in my life. So I'm just like, why didn't I just do this straight out of the gate? Like, why didn't I just do contract work when I finished my hours, you know? I think I had one job that was they paid you as if you were contract, but you were actually an employee. But even then I wasn't full. So I don't know. I think that the more that I like was able to experience being a counselor in the real world, the more I learned, like, you know, there's just things that I think that you shouldn't do if you're just starting out. You should not sign a non-compete disclosure, in my opinion, because then that limits the amount of hours, like the amount of places that you can go. Like my first job was a non-compete disclosure, and I couldn't get a second job working as a counselor, so I was fully dependent on them for hours, and I just wasn't getting full. And then because you're a new counselor too, a lot of times you have to deal with inconsistency in clients, and that is a combination of like the population you work with. People, you know, using insurance often are less consistent than people that pay out of pocket. And also, when you're a new therapist, you're still learning, you know, practicing your clinical skills. So all of that combines into sometimes clients dropping out or not being as consistent as they could be, which impacts your ability to get hours done. So my biggest tip for any new counselors is do not sign a non-compete disclosure. If any company tells you you need to sign one, go find somewhere else to work, because there's other practices that will let you work in multiple places because they know what it was like for them trying to fill their hours, and they get it, because it is hard. And also, let's not even forget about the income. Like, we're paid based on sessions, so if I'm not being able to get full working for the contract, imagine what amount of money I was making. Like, I was getting checks that were sometimes like $75, and that was for like a month's worth of work. It was just ridiculous. So definitely, you know, do what you need to do as far as making sure that you can pay your bills and get your hours done and things like that. But anyways, that first clinical experience taught me a lot. It was still a positive experience. I really liked my supervisor, learned so much from him, but I just wish that it was a little bit different. I probably would still be there if I was able to get full and I was able to get consistent pay. I would probably still be, because I had no other complaints. But anyways, fast forward. So today, what time is it? Okay, I have a session at 10. I have a session at 11. And I don't remember if I have a 12 o'clock. Hold on. Okay, so I have a session at 10, 11, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6:30. So I have a little bit of a gap in the afternoon where I'll do some documentation, eat lunch, and prepare for the rest of my sessions. But yeah, so that's what's gonna happen. I have I wanted to say that I changed my niche up a little bit for my private practice. I still have to figure out what I'm really niching, you know? Because I feel like I was getting a lot more personal referrals to my private practice before, like when I was first starting. And now that I've changed my specialty to working with children with like behavioral issues, to do in-home and in-school therapy, I've got like 2 referrals. But I did just change it this month, so 2 referrals in a month. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not ideal. So I'm just trying to figure it out. Everybody says niche down, niche down, niche down, but nobody tells you. Well, people do tell you how to do it, but it just, the advice doesn't make sense to me. You know, like, find what you love. Like, think about your ideal client. Well, if I don't know my niche, I clearly don't know my ideal client. And then somebody else was like, well, think about the clients that you've enjoyed working with. Well, I've enjoyed working with a wide range of clients, from women who have like dealt with domestic violence, or who have dealt with, you know, just a relationship that like the guy cheated on her or whatever, you know, something that significant that happened in their relationship and they need to process it. Like, I've enjoyed working with those people. I've also enjoyed working with children with trauma, you know, using TFCBT. I've enjoyed working with adults with childhood trauma and processing that. Like, I just like working with a lot of different people. I don't have a like ideal person in mind, you know. And then the other thing, well, one of my clinical supervisors, she said that she didn't niche down in the beginning. She just took whoever, and she still hasn't really she has a niche, but it's more her nonprofit is focused on the niche of working with first responders. But like, she still takes anybody. So I'm just like, I think that because she's insurance based, you really don't have to do that. So I think private pay people really do have to niche down. And that's another thing I have to decide in the coming months, is like, do I want to stay private pay? Do I want to take insurance? I don't know. I did the math, and I actually made, like, this past month, I actually made more from my private practice than I did for my contract work. So, you know, and I see a lot less clients in my private practice than I do with these contracts. So that's another pro of doing a private pay private practice, is you often make more money doing less work. And now I'm not saying I'm making like ridiculous amount of money, but I am saying that the earning potential is more, which means quality of life is better typically, because you can pay your bills and don't have to worry about things like that as much. So I have some decisions to make. And I kind of am praying about it, I'm being prayerful about it. You know, I'm putting my practice in God's hands and seeing where it goes. But right now, I think I'm in a good spot. And yeah, I'm going to get ready for this next session. Okay, so at the time of recording this video, I was fully booked. And at the time of recording this voiceover, I am not. So what happened? I had a couple of people that have graduated, I call it graduating, from weekly, or from, what was it? Monthly, or not monthly, bi-weekly to monthly. So that's where in therapy, like, you usually start out weekly. As you improve, you could become bi-weekly client, and then you become monthly, and then you get discharged. That's typically at least how I do it. So I had one discharge last week because that person like met all of their goals, and was doing well, maintaining on their own on a month-to-month basis, so there was no reason to continue therapy, we both decided, and so they were discharged. And then I had a couple people who graduated from weekly to bi-weekly, and one person who graduated from bi-weekly to monthly, so that means I have more sessions opened up. Also in therapy, there's something that happens where people just kind of silently drop out. I'm pumping here in case you're wondering what's going on. And so I was pumping. But anyways, where people kind of silently drop out for a little while, you don't hear from them, and then all of a sudden you hear from them again, like in a few weeks, or a few days, next week, whatever. And then there's people, so every place has its own policy. My contract has a policy of if you don't hear from them within a month and you've tried to reach them, then you discharge them. If they do reach back out to us, then they have to do the intake process all over again if we decide to continue to work with them. So that is a thing. I remember in my internship year, my supervisor said that typically about 20% of clients, 20% of your weekly sessions will be either a cancellation or a no-show. And that's pretty accurate, I'd have to say. That's been pretty consistent for me. So usually at the beginning of the week, I'll figure out how many sessions do I have, and then I'll guess how many people are going to cancel based on that 20% rule. Sometimes it's less than that cancel, and sometimes nobody cancels, but that's very, very rare. I have rarely had it where every single client shows up, unless, even when I'm doing in-home therapy, even when I was primarily an in-home therapist, there would be kids that were sick, people go on vacation, things like that. So yeah, no, it's the 20% rule. So if you're trying to get into private practice, just know that like when you're estimating how many people you want to see every week, also factor that in. Add that 20% in so that you are still meeting that, what you want to see every week minus the 20%. And then worst case scenario, on the weeks where you're fully booked and you have, all of the people show up, those are few and far between, so don't stress out about it. At least that's been my experience. Maybe some other therapists have it differently. But I also know, like, as you get more experience with being a therapist, you have a lower dropout rate. Okay, so the salad was not enough to sustain me. Breastfeeding, I need more like carbs and stuff, and so I'm eating some leftovers from last night as well that I made. It's it's like Italian tortellini soup or whatever the recipe was called, but it's really good. It's feta and spinach filled tortellini with chicken and spinach inside the soup, and it's tomato-based soup, so it's really good. But anyways, so that eating the leftovers of that, hopefully that fills me up. I had just got out of an appointment. My next one after that no-showed, which was very strange because a person never no-shows, so I don't know what's going on, and I hope they're okay. The other person after that one is sick. So I actually have a bigger gap than I thought, so I now don't have a session until 5:30. So it's about 3:30 now. So I have a little bit of a gap. So what I like to do when these things happen is use this time to do some documentation. I have a lot of treatment plans to write, and diagnostic assessments, and just thinking about it, I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do any of it. And so I have to do that. And otherwise, if I'm done with my paperwork, like if I don't have any documentation to do, and I get these cancellations or no-show appointments, what I'll do is I'll focus on my marketing or something else business related. I like to still use the time for work, because I found in the past that like if I don't, and I like go downstairs to check on the family and see how they're doing or what's going on, then I will get sucked into mom role, and I'll start feeding babies and changing diapers and talking to my husband, and before I know it, it's time for my next session, and I've done like nothing to for my business. So I'm just using this time to work, because I would be working if it hadn't been for the cancellation. So I'm just still using the time to work. Just kind of like what you would do if you were like worked in an agency, like in person somewhere. If you had a no-show, you wouldn't just like, I mean, I guess you could just sit there, but I think a lot of us try to do something to maximize our time. So yeah, going back to what I was saying before, the more experienced therapists usually have less people who don't show up or less people who cancel. One of my very first clinical supervisor ever told me that, and he had he was 70 years old at the time, and he had maybe 50, I think, years of experience at the time. He told me that one way to increase your attention is to call people with reminders, and if they don't show up, or if you notice that they're 10-15 minutes late, give them a call. And I found that is definitely true. A lot of times if you call them instead of just sitting there waiting, you call them after 15 minutes, then a lot of times they will say, oh, I forgot, or oh, something came up, can we reschedule, or I didn't see the link, can you send it to me, or I'm having problems logging in to the link if it's virtual. Or sometimes I've had it where it was an in-home session and they were just not home, and they were on their way home. So those phone calls are important, but sometimes it's just with certain clients, and you'll know which clients this is. With certain clients, it is actually more of a therapeutic thing for them to learn how to manage their own time, their own schedule, without relying on those reminders, because it's kind of part of their treatment modality, or their treatment plan. So you'll know which clients those are, but for most people, those follow-up calls are helpful. But some people don't do it, and I understand why. Because if you miss a doctor appointment at the doctor's office, they're not going to call you after 15 minutes and say, hey, you missed your appointment. They have other things they have to do. So some therapists don't do that. If they're too busy, they have a full caseload or whatever, they might call them the next day or next week just to follow up, if they don't hear from them or something. But yeah, so basically that's the gist of that, and I am just getting more clients again. I'm considering doing another contract where I'll be doing group therapy work, or maybe I'll do a part-time job to help fill my hours and to support my income as well. For in-home therapy, I am going to weigh the pros and cons and see. Okay, so I just finished out my day, and yeah, it's now time, almost 8 o'clock, it's 7:50, so I just finished out my last session. I actually don't have very much documentation to do, because I did do most of my documentation during people's sessions. I just try and do the progress note as I'm talking to them, which I don't usually like to do, but it's, now that I have a full caseload, it's definitely something that my supervisor has talked to me about trying, because she does it that way, and it helps her a lot to stay on top of her paperwork. So that has helped me a lot. Now I just have a couple of treatment plans to write and diagnostic assessments, but other than that, I mean, I can do those tomorrow, but the progress notes and stuff, those shorter notes, those easier things are done. So yeah, I am going to continue out my night, hang out with my family, eat dinner, and probably pump one more time, and call it a night. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more updates on how my business is going and growing. Alright.